Linear functions and systems review. After watching this video, I will be able to recall how to graph a line and solve a system graphically. So first we want to recall what is an intercept. So an intercept is basically any point in which your graph is passing through an axis. So this blue line would be considered the x-axis. And then this green line would be considered the y-axis. So looking at my graph, if I want to identify the x-intercept, that would be wherever my graph or line is passing through the x-axis, which is happening at 2. The ordered pair would be 2, 0. And then your y-intercept would be wherever your graph is passing through the y-intercept, the y-axis. So that would be at 5. The ordered pair for the y-intercept would be 0, 5. Now you try. Identify the x and y intercept. In order to graph lines, we also need to recall what is slope. So slope is rise over run. And we usually use the letter M to represent slope. So going at 2 points on a graph, I can pick the lower point and rise. So I am going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to run 1. So my rise was 5 and my run was 1. This is the same thing as just having the number 5. And then we also want to remember, is the slope positive or negative? Because we are going uphill, going from left to right, this is a positive slope, so it will remain as positive 5. Now you try. Find the slope of the line. Graphing a line in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form is any equation that's written in the form y equals mx plus b. The m represents the slope, and that would be just a number. Your b represents the y-intercept, which would also be a number. So the m and b are just letters there to represent something that should be a number. Looking at your equation, y equals negative 2x minus 2, you want to identify the slope and the y-intercept in order to graph the line. So the slope would be that number in front of x, just like m. So negative 2 or negative 2 over 1. And then your y-intercept would be that number that's hanging out by itself. So the b would be negative 2 because of minus 2. Once you have that information, you can plot your points. So I'm going to start with the negative 2 as my y-intercept, go to my y-axis, plot a negative 2, and then using my slope, I am going to do rise over run. So because it's negative 2 over 1, I can either go up 2 and then left because it's negative to plot my point, or I could go down because it's negative and then to the right 1. This makes sense because this is a negative slope because I'm walking downhill. And then once you have at least 2 dots, you can draw the straight line by connecting the dots. So this black line represents all the possible points for this equation. Now you try. Identify the slope and the y-intercept from the equation above in order to graph this line. Once we're able to graph one line, we can easily graph 2 lines on the same coordinate grid. And this means that when I have two lines drawn, there are a system of equations because the two lines are working together to find a solution. So there are three types of solutions when we're talking about systems. We can either have one solution, and that happens when the lines intersect. We can have no solution, and that happens when the lines never intersect because they're parallel. Or we can have infinite solutions, which happens when the two lines actually end up being the same line. So looking at this graph, because these two lines intersect, there must be one solution. And if we want to identify the actual solution, well, we would need to see that point. So we always start at the origin when we're talking about points, and left or right for your x. So we went to the right 4, and then we went down to the point -3. So the solution to the system would be 4, -3. Now you try. Looking at the two lines that are graphed, what is the solution to the system? So now we want to actually graph both of the lines because they're a system, and then identify the solution. So I'm going to graph the first line by first identifying the y-intercept, which is -3. And then I'm going to use my slope, which is -1.5. So I'm going to go either up 1 and to the left 2, or down 1 and to the right 2. Then I am going to graph my second equation. I'm going to identify the y-intercept, which is 2. So I plot a point at the y-axis at 2. And then I'm going to identify my slope, which would be 2, or 2/1. So I would go up 2 and to the right 1, or down 2 and to the left 1. And then I would graph my line. And then I want to see what is happening with both lines. So because the two lines intersect, there is one solution. And then the solution is at the point where they intersect, which would be -2, -2. Remember, each point or ordered pair is x first and then comma y. Now you try. Graph the system on your own piece of paper and then identify the solution.